And welcome back to the NWA 1983 project. I'm your host, Lex G. And along with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
Still hot.
Still catching those Pokemon, right?
Oh yeah. Thing is, when I tackle people with other Pokemons, I don't think that's the way to play. Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
Fantastic. So a couple announcements regarding the NWA 1983 project. I'm going to go over quickly the champions that are currently, at least the world champions anyway. NWA World Heavyweight Champion is currently Nature Boy Ric Flair. He's a big title defense coming up against Harley Race at Texas Stadium. In addition, we have Wahoo McDaniel as the United States Champion. He recently defeated Roddy Piper for that championship. Television Champion is Rugged Ronnie Garvin. I know how everyone loves Ronnie Garvin. Tag Team Champions are Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. Right now, they're engaged in a feud with the Briscoe brothers. Not those Briscoe brothers, the other Briscoe brothers. That would be Jack and Jerry Briscoe. So, again, with WWE 2K17 coming out, it looks like we'll only do up until April of 1984. If I decide to continue this project, it will probably be using the WWE 2K17 engine if I can. Like I mentioned before, our next big show will be live from Puerto Rico. During that show, we will discuss Puerto Rican wrestling and its impact on the wrestling world. So that'll be coming up next. So guys, we wanted to go over some current events going on in the wrestling world. I think the most notable thing going on right now is Brock Lesnar's big win at UFC 200. So Matt, what's your thought on Brock Lesnar going back to the octagon?
I watched it. It was a good first round, not too bad. Boring second round, and third round. I think he was very cautious, which is, understandable. You don't want to go in and, get dropped by one punch and be like, oh, there you go. Mark
Hunt being known as someone who can knock someone out. He's a really good striker from what I understand.
Yeah, and I think with him, Lesnar just, sort of like trust yourself. He's in great shape.
Looks like he slimmed down quite a bit, too.
Yeah. I just felt like he could have really whooped the guy's ass, and he just kind of went easy on him. And maybe that was his plan, to say, I'll beat this guy, barely not show anything, and the next guy I take on, I'm just going to total. I think he will be back again at some point.
I mean, not bad for a part-time job, getting paid $2.5 million for that fight. So, again, he looked in great shape. Will it lead to a heavyweight championship bout at some point? Possibly. Maybe. The one thing that's interesting to me, and the WWF did loan him out to the UFC, but I don't think the UFC really promoted the WWE all that well. I believe there was only one promo for the upcoming pay-per-view. Brock Lesnar did not come out to his WWE music as a lot of us thought he would, and they really didn't talk about it all that much. So I don't know if Vince got the short end of the stick on that deal or what have you, but again, here's a returning Brock Lesnar who just came fresh off the UFC fight, and that should be a big draw for SummerSlam coming up with his match against Randy Orton. It makes me wonder how exactly you book Brock Lesnar going forward. Does he become an Andre the Giant where you'll keep him as far away from the WWE World Championship belt as possible, because in reality, I don't think anyone there can beat him. And so in kayfabe, it's like, how do you kind of rectify that? You can't have him come off this UFC fight and have him get beat by Randy Orton in 20 minutes. That'd be kind of ridiculous. So as a part-time, big-time attraction, he can definitely draw for them, but I would keep him as far away from the championship belt as possible, unless he wins the UFC Heavyweight Championship and you want to have him walk around with both belts. But I don't know if the UFC will let him appear with that belt on WWE's programming.
Yeah, I can see that.
A side note, and I know a lot of MMA fans don't really want to buy that, but before The Ultimate Fighter, the UFC was in trouble financially, I believe. And I feel that The Ultimate Fighter being put on before Raw kind of stole the audience from wrestling fans. There were a lot of wrestling fans who were disenfranchised at the time, who were growing, they really enjoyed the Attitude Era. WWE was not giving them anything they wanted to see, so they went over to the UFC. Now, a lot of UFC fans will debate that to the cows come home, but whatever. To each their own, I guess.
Yeah.
But you can't deny that the Ultimate Fighter is the thing that brought them back into national prominence. And now the fact that they're at Madison Square Garden, they're going into Madison Square Garden, is a big deal. They were just sold for $4 billion. And keep this in mind, wrestling fans, that the WWE's current worth is about $600 million. So, holy shit. I don't know what the new ownership group's going to do going forward. If they're going to try to expand it, or going to try to make the money, try to make a profit off it and kind of leave it status quo, or expand it to other countries like in China, and do some stuff in Japan or what have you. But we will see. We'll see about the UFC and Brock Lesnar, and don't forget that we have CM Punk finally getting in the octagon himself, and I'm curious to see how he does there as well. A lot of people are hoping he gets his head caved in. I'm not one of those guys. I hope he does well. To me, it makes me feel like, okay, wrestling guys are legitimately tough, which we all know they are, but there's a lot of people out there that think they're just, ballet dancers, or, they're not really that tough, where in reality, they're probably some of the toughest guys in the world. So, it's not easy, folks. You're taking those bumps 300 times a year, so, it can be kind of rough in there. And see by the amount of injuries they currently have right now that it's, it can definitely take a toll on you physically.
Oh yeah, I think there's just too much road travel right now. They don't read. I think it's one of those things that too you don't need to have with a TV schedule. You don't need to have them doing house shows as much as you think.
You can definitely split up the crews, especially if you're going to do the brand split and you're looking to expand your roster. You can give some of these guys some time off.
Yeah.
Unless you're John Cena, and then fans ask for refunds.
Screw that guy.
Yeah, so guys, if you guys haven't heard about this news story, there was a young man, I believe, out of Philadelphia, who was upset at the fact that Daniel Bryan wasn't going to appear at the house show in his area, and he was very upset at that and wanted a refund. And then he was even more upset when he found out in another house show, if I have my facts correct, that John Cena was not going to appear. Got the local NBC affiliate involved, and was able to get a couple of tickets that way. I can see why the WWE wanted to cave in on that, not wanting the bad publicity.
Yeah.
But this gentleman claims to be a huge wrestling fan, but did not understand the fact that Daniel Bryan and John Cena were both injured at the time.
Yes.
Daniel Bryan retiring not too long ago, and John Cena just returning back from an injury. So the card is subject to change, folks. So
I think it's one of those things that if it was like the Patriots make it to the Super Bowl, but Brady's not the quarterback, or LeBron and the Cavs hit the finals, but LeBron breaks his leg and he's not going to play. Like, it's an injury-prone sport. It's going to happen, So you got to kind of just deal with it. And this is just a wuss.
I don't like how the media portrayed him as the WWE just taking guys off or falsely advertising guys. The WWE, although for all their faults that they do have, they're really good about making sure that the guys that are scheduled to appear and have been promoted make it to their shows. Even going so far as firing guys who don't make shows. So I think that's a crock of shit.
Crock of shit!
You're damn right. I think he's someone that claims to be a big wrestling fan, which I don't think he is. He may be a big WWE fan.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a big wrestling fan. I don't know him personally, so I can't make those judgments. To me, it's like, come on, dude. Like, seriously? That was like when I was a kid, 1993. I went to a Yankee game, hoping that I would see my hero, Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly did not play in that game because he was out with an injury. Was I sad that he wasn't there? Absolutely. But again, he was fucking hurt. Christ, it wasn't like they kept him in the lineup for no reason. It was like they were arresting him or something. So to me, that's a crock of shit. I think NBC should be ashamed of themselves because they kind of misreported the story. They left out the fact that these gentlemen were injured at the time. And, they did say that, the card is subject to change and that kind of good stuff. But it's like, dude, come on.
Right.
Like, go take your replica belt and go somewhere with yourself. One thing I don't understand now, I can understand buying a replica belt. Hell, I want a replica belt. I want the Hulk Hogan big green belt, the one he won from the Iron Sheik. I like to put that on my wall and have it properly displayed in my wrestling room. That's cool. I don't understand the gentlemen who feel the need to wear their belts to a wrestling show. What's that about? Unless you're going to get an autograph from said wrestler, then I could understand it a little bit better. But just kind of walking around with it, walking around downtown Manhattan with that championship belt, I don't understand.
That's a good photo op, but I like the idea of the autographs on the belt.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's fantastic that they can get the autographs. But again, you're a train coming back from Manhattan and you're kind of wearing your wrestling belt. Kind of weirds me out a little bit, to be honest. Also in the news, as of late, we have John Cena hosting the ESPYs. So, Matt, I know you caught a couple of clips of that. How'd he do?
He didn't do too bad. He had a lot of good material, but I think his delivery was a bit rushed. He had the nervous newbie giggles, kind of laughing at his own material, and also he did a lot of what too much, kind of commenting, and you see it. I mean, he's a performer. We've seen him for years. Just treat it like any other audience, dude. Don't worry about it. I think he let the moment get to him because he seemed kind of nervous about it.
It's funny because we never see him nervous at all.
No, and that's the thing. I think it's you just got to trust yourself and trust the material. And I'm sure, if I had to guess, they had a team of writers working with him.
Oh, for sure.
So it's not like he had a great joke about Roger Goodell comparing, there's no way you'd have a manipulative, crazy billionaire boss who's trying to rig things, and then they showed a picture of Goodell behind him. So it was well done, and he had a couple of, he had a joke about Kobe Bryant. He's like, I come down there and high five you, but you missed the first 12 attempts. and that's not bad, but he rushed through it, and I think it's almost one of those things where it's like some of the people in the audience were like, asshole, you never, it's your first week here,
Right.
So I think it was, overall, he did well.
Okay. I can live with that. Again, I think we made the point on one of our prior episodes. He is becoming more mainstream.
Yes.
So you're seeing him a lot more. Would it be ESPN and ESPYs, or will it be on a TV show, or we'll see him in more mainstream movies? Again, it goes back to I got to tell these guys that his time is running out in terms of being a full-time WWE wrestler. I mean,
right.
You might see him go in the next couple of years. So,
well, how many injuries in the last, let's say, 3 years has he had? A couple, right?
Yeah, he's been out.
The arm, the shoulder.
Yeah, he's been out. So, he's running down, unfortunately. And if he's thinking about his long-term health, I mean, it might be time for him to making a transition out.
Right.
We'll see how that goes. In addition, I just got done watching the Cruiserweight Classic. It was the first 4 matches, 1-hour shows. From what I understand, over 10 weeks. I thought the presentation was fantastic. More of a sports-based presentation. Felt like watching a big boxing match or a UFC fight. Again, super hyper-realistic. Everything was toned down in terms of production, so you can see the pyro. They had a small Titantron. It looked completely different than anything we see on NXT, Raw, or SmackDown. They darkened the crowd a little bit. They did some blue lighting in the crowd, but again, you didn't see, it was basically, it felt like a big time fight. The matches on the card, all good matches, all solid matches. Nothing too earth shattering in terms of matches. Again, these are all matches that we've seen on Ring of Honor, PWG, TNA in its early inception. I mean, these are matches that we've seen before. All great matches, but not breaking any new ground here. Mm-hmm. But I thought overall the production value on that was fantastic. I liked having Daniel Bryan as color commentator. That was fantastic. He did a great job. Every once in a while he would cut off the play-by-play guy, but that's to be expected. This is his first time doing a commentary of this magnitude. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but I think for a first attempt, his first chance out there, he did a fantastic job. And hopefully we can see him more in the future. Would it be a general manager spot or a color commentator down the road? Keep him involved in wrestling, keep him getting paid. So I really dig that. For those of you who don't know what the Cruiserweight Classic is, the WWE, to their credit, got the best 32 cruiserweights around the world. They had 16 different countries represented. They had Japan, Chile, USA, Iran, France, Germany, Australia, Italy, Mexico, India, Hong Kong, England, Puerto Rico, Pakistan, Scotland, America Samoa, which I don't think is a country. Well, it's a country. The Philippines, and Canada. So they had all these guys from around the world, so they got the best cruiserweights that they could get. There's some other cruiserweights and some other companies that they weren't be able to get, but these are the best guys that they could get. And to their credit, they really showcased these guys. And 5 or 6 years ago, they didn't want to bring these guys in at all. They weren't going to do anything like this. Have a tournament that didn't have any WWE talent in it.
Right.
Now, they did sign Tajiri to a long-term contract, but I don't think any of these guys are contracted currently. If maybe 1 or 2, but majority of these guys are not contracted WWE wrestlers, and to have them be on the card and given a position of this magnitude is fantastic. Something they haven't done since 1983, 1982.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Some of the names, I'll run through the names real quick. They have Tauza, they got Alejandro Said, they got Anthony Bennett, Davari, the other Davari, Brian Krenrick, Cedric Alexander, Clement Piot, The Mac, Damian Slater, Drew Gulak, Giovanni Macari, Graham Metallic, Groove Shearer, Hobbs Shearer, Ho Ho Lun, who had a great crowd reaction, by the way, Jack Gallagher, Jason Lee, Johnny Gargano, who I believe is contracted as well, Kenneth Johnson, Ayabusha, Lindsay Dorado, Mustafa Ali, Noam Dar, Raul Mendoza, Rich Swann, Sam Luda, who is the cousin of Roman Reigns in the Usos, by the way, TJ Perkins, Tajiri, Tommaso Ciampa, Tony Nese, Tyson Dux, and Zack Sabre Jr., who is my pick to go all the way in this tournament. They're doing a lot of funny stuff too, like it was March Madness. They had bracketology, and they had wrestlers filling out their brackets to see who would win. So again, something completely different that we've never seen before in WWE, and it's very exciting. So guys, we're going to do something a little bit different for the show. This episode, myself and Matt will be looking at clips from YouTube that will you have links in the description for them, and we're going to take a look at some of wrestling's most cringeworthy moments, perhaps you would call them, controversial moments, perhaps, or just a time where wrestling in general may have went a little too far. So first up, we have Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon go to church. You want to hit play now? That's a great looking church they got there. Looks like Vince is limping around. He doesn't seem like himself. It looks like he has some sort of injury. Shane looks completely uncomfortable. We have Vince McMahon proclaimed that he's never been to church before, which is awesome.
It could be. We don't know.
So, guys, if some of you may not know, this is when Shane and Vince McMahon challenged HBK and God to a tag team match.
The lean years.
Yeah, and creatively they were rough. Vince McMahon complains that the church is only cash only when he tries to give a donation via credit card.
Good old Vince. I think too, as you can tell, obviously this is like a set, not a real church. I don't know. Actually, maybe it is a real church. It's hard to tell.
Vince tries to wash his hands in the holy water. It's stopped by Shane. Then he takes a sip of the holy water, and he is going to spit it out like Triple H in church. Fucking Christ. Vince McMahon sporting a bandage on his head. I wonder if that's from a incident with Shawn Michaels prior to this. Vince is calling out God, which is it's awesome.
I should really redo this angle.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I actually had an idea. They should always, or not always, but try it every so often and slip in a replay. What I mean by that is like have two guys pull off the exact Steamboat Savage match.
Like move for move?
Move for move. Just see if anyone notices.
Vince McMahon proclaims that he's a strong work ethic than God.
No, man, that's probably true. And this is all because Shawn Michaels was very religious, right?
Yeah, this is and his Born Again. I mean, they're really kind of playing that up. I kind of figured this is punishment for Shawn being a douche for like 5 years.
Yeah. They should have at least had a priest be like, you ever seen the movie Hot Fuzz?
No, but you ever seen nude nuns with big guns?
No.
It's on Netflix. It's awesome.
Nude nuns?
With big guns, yeah. It's awesome.
No, in Hot Fuzz, there's a scene where the priest comes out and he's like, "Stop this violence!" And then he shakes his wrist and guns pop out. It's a good one. That's we ever had a wrestling preacher, like pastor?
Reverend Devon.
Yeah, but like a real one, not like him just like saying that.
Reverend Slick? He's real. He's a real reverend.
I want to see a guy come out and like collar and everything. I'm telling you, it's one of what I call the unplayed gimmicks. Comes out, he has an altar boy, he has a nun. He's got it all right there.
We have Vince telling everyone his commandments, which is fantastic. So on the level of blasphemy, where would you rate this?
I guess if people are into that sort of thing, then it's probably a 7. I mean, he's doing it. He's playing a character. But I think it's it's supposed to be over the top, humorous and goofy. I really think that, like you said, he did this to punish Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that's the deal here. Again, is it in poor taste? Absolutely. And for someone who's so red state like Vince, I'm surprised he would do something like this. But I guess at this point, he doesn't give a shit. And any kind of angle creatively that he can push the envelope with, he's going to do that. But it's like, ugh.
Well, you want to talk about blasphemy, or not blasphemy, but like over the line? I think the Katie Vick thing is really probably the strongest one.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's the next video we're going to watch. So Vince in church. I'm gonna. What do you get? What do you guys think? Is this blasphemy? Is it not blasphemy? Is it in poor taste? Did it draw any money? Was it something just to put on TV? Did it sell any tickets? Did it make you want to watch that tag match anymore when they had it's basically a handicap match, where it's Mitch McMahon and Shane versus Shawn Michaels and God. I mean, did it make me order the pay-per-view? No. But I don't think anything you could do at that time could make me order pay-per-view, because at that time their product was so shitty that this is in the same vein of Vince getting blown up in his car and dying and that kind of stuff. So it's like, just bad booking, bad writing all around. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing at this point. So guys, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you guys feel about this angle. Next up, we have Katie Vick, the infamous Katie Vick angle. I'm gonna hit play right now. So it starts off with Coach interviewing Triple H.
Oh, Coach. He had hair.
Yeah. He's on ESPN now, by the way, guys.
That's right. Jonathan Coachman.
So obviously Triple H is feuding with Kane for the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like Triple H without his beard. I think he looks more badass with the beard and the stubble than all clean shaven. Kind of looks like a douche.
I did like the warning, discretion is advised.
Yeah, this may offend some viewers.
Because it starts off and it's supposed to be hokey, but I think my favorite parts of this whole entire video are the audience reactions.
I guess 10/9/92.
2:30 a.m. It's me, Kane. Yeah, that works.
Here's the t-shirt. This is the big freaking machine.
Yeah.
I think Kane was already wrestling in Smoky Mountain in 92, by the way. As the Unabomb. That's a big funeral home. Like, that goes back quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I like how it's an open casket even at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, for real.
Just, Leo, now, do you think, I forget now, is there a mannequin in there?
It is like a mannequin, like a doll.
So, I forget most of the Katie Vick angles, so fill me in on who Katie Vick was.
So, apparently, Kane had a girlfriend when he was in high school, and I believe he was involved in an auto accident that killed this young lady. And it's one of his terrible secrets that he had growing up that he had to deal with. Which, kayfabe-wise, I was pretty sure he was locked in the funeral parlor with Paul Parra and shit. And they released him right before WrestleMania 14, but I guess that wasn't the case.
Oh my God! Now it's all been ruined.
Way to go, destroying kayfabe, guys.
Yeah, it's funny because you think back and someone was sitting there going, "This is gold, Jerry. It's gold."
I think this is the number one most offensive thing. I mean,
well, I think what makes it really, for me, writing-wise, it's a 7-minute segment.
Yeah, it's long as shit.
It's like 7 minutes, dude. Just get in, get on with it, and get out. We get the point. You're going to try to molest his dead girlfriend or whatever it is here.
Yeah. Now, would it have been more appropriate if he actually digged up the girl and did it instead of doing it with a mannequin.
Pull the big boss man, bring out the casket with the, drag it behind.
I'm just saying, if you're going for heat, that will get you heat. This is just ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't have worked either way, but it's like, fuck, dude. If you're gonna go for it, fucking go for it.
I mean, if you're gonna cross the line, have him at like cut a promo, and as you pan back, it's at the location where she was killed.
Right.
And you're like, here I am. You're free. You're a free guy. Where's Katie these days?
It's not a good angle. I mean, it's just not. There's no heat attached to it. It's offensive, and I don't think it made you want to watch Kane get his revenge. You're kind of like, what the fuck is this nonsense?
Right.
It's more of like, go away heat. Like, I'm just gonna shut this shit off.
Yeah, and I think too is if you get away from the simple, which is just championship driven. You have championships in this business. Don't you want them? He has one on his shoulder. What does he need to do? If he's trying to mess with Kane's head, fine. But like, you don't have to do this. This to me is like, and I told you my favorite part of this video, but it's bad.
It's just a bad angle. I mean, number one, it's offensive, but whatever the fuck. But it's a poorly written, poorly produced angle.
Yeah.
And they got so much backlash from this that they kind of de-emphasized this angle prior to the title match. So it was like, what the fuck? I was like, ugh.
Yeah, when he pulls off the underwear, it's like, oh, dude. Because China's somewhere going, hey.
I think China was gone by this point.
That's true, yeah. Well, she's somewhere.
She's somewhere hanging out with Sean Waltman. So
Sean Waltman, right?
Yeah.
3 days in China.
Weird and gross. Much like this angle.
Right. So he's pulling this together, and it's like, all right, TNN, that network, that used to be the national network.
Yeah, this is before they went over. This is before they changed the name to Spike.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, because remember they became Spike, and it was like, oh, which for some reason my cable server doesn't carry anymore. So whatever.
Do you know that TNN was one of the first cable networks?
Really?
It's been around for a very long time. Not a lot of coverage nationally, but it's been around since the beginning.
And here he is mounting
the
mannequin. Oh, yeah. This is a good lesson in...
Was this a Brian Gewirtz thing, or you think this is Vince himself?
I'd say probably not Vince, because I think even he would be like, what's it going to sell? Like, where's the selling point?
The payoff? It's like, oh, the Kane's going to be super pissed at me, and he's going to come after me, and all this other shit.
Right.
But again, as an angle itself, it's poorly produced.
Oh, dude, it's terrible. Here's my favorite part when he realizes that oh my god, and his acting is so bad. And it's like,
it's like Blade 2, where it was in one of the Blade movies.
Yeah, I screwed your brains out.
Still better than The Chaperone, though.
Yeah, well, those WWE direct to DVD movies, whatever, direct to dollar store movies. I did like throwing the brain matter at the camera. That was a nice touch.
Now, was this a joke? Now, are we supposed to believe that it was her corpse for real, or are we supposed to believe that's like a mannequin and it's a joke?
Yeah, I think it's... See, they should have had... they should have had Coach turn to the camera and go, and I get paid to be here.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All right, so next up we have... Jake Robertson, the Ultimate Warrior. All right, so next up we have Jake the Snake Roberts and the Ultimate Warrior. So it starts off with Paul Bearer at the funeral parlor.
Oh. There's all those picture memes of, Sheriff, you've ever talked like Randy Savage, right?
Yeah.
But there's got to be one if you've ever talked like Paul Bearer.
Now, do you think the funeral parlor was a good replacement for the Brother Love show?
In that it built off a character was existing, sure. Brother Love was just, god awful.
He was a little over the top, and it can be a little cringeworthy himself. But I think, the funeral parlors that dealt with big angles, like you had the Hogan, Flair, and Undertaker that worked off the funeral parlor. That was really good. Undertaker turning face, and when Jake kind of slammed his fingers in the casket and gave him with the chair, that was really good. And this one is interesting, to say the least.
Jake, never been to a Jim Roberts.
Yeah, never. Now, Jake Roberts is still a babyface at this point, recently losing his snake Damien when the earthquake sat on him and killed him. And then made Quake Burgers on an episode of Primetime for everyone to eat. It was Damien. So I wonder if the death of Damien is what caused him to turn heel, because at this point, he's still top 4 babyface in the company. For a while, he was the number 2 guy, before Warrior. So getting huge reactions and, feuding with Bad News Brown with, with the sewer rats and the blindfold match with Rick the Model Martel. So this guy has been given, shit to work with, and he's made it gold for the most part.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that maybe it was the drugs, and we don't know about his past back then, but, I always felt he was never quite given the right ride.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, it's hard to give someone a super duper push, like a Hogan Warrior type push, when they're completely unreliable.
Right.
He's been in and out of rehab 2 or 3 times at this point, missing, 6 months, in rehab, getting in trouble with drugs, being arrested, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So right now, this is post WrestleMania 7. Ultimate Warrior is currently engaged in a feud with The Undertaker. So the whole kind of premise of this promo is that Jake is going to help Warrior get in touch with the dark side so he can defeat The Undertaker.
The dark side.
Which is something that's interesting. I wish they would bring that back. Like, I would see a scenario where Bray Wyatt has to go to Stone Mountain, Georgia and hang out with Jake, or he has to go somewhere and meet up with Kevin Sullivan, that kind of stuff.
They could totally do that and have like a spiritual advisor or like, finding himself type thing, because he's been in a lot of feuds, but he hasn't.
He hasn't had that feud.
Right.
The feud that's going to put him on the map.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the end of the funeral parlor segment. Paul Bearer looks very, very concerned.
No, he's taking his sack with him. What was in the sack then?
That was his new snake called Lucifer.
Oh, all right.
Next up, we have a segment from your personal favorite and mine, Lord Alfred Hayes.
Blotto.
I thought he was terrible.
Oh, he's mostly sober.
This is how bad he is. You go back and watch WrestleMania 1, and he's the shits. It's like, fucking A.
Oh no, Jake the Snake Roberts, he's crikey.
The next up is a segment with we got some candles here. So we have Jake the Snake Roberts, who's placing the Ultimate Warrior in a casket. You want to know all about The Undertaker, it seems like. Now, The Undertaker and The Ultimate Warrior have been feuding on house shows in a series of body bag matches. Now, this is prior to the casket match, where The Undertaker would place his prone opponents in body bags and take them to the back to do, I guess, a Katie Vick to him, I guess.
Yeah, Undertaker things. Ultimate Warrior looks very puzzled. I want to get out!
As per normal at this point.
But what's funny is, like, you look at Jake, right? He's wearing kind of like, polo and jeans. He looks kind of normal. It's like
Warriors in his wrestling gear?
Right. It's like, dude, you just walk around in your wrestling gear 24/7. The Warrior needs to get his hair fixed. Was this Warrior that was post? Remember when he came back and then get somebody else?
This is before he came back.
Okay.
So this is before SummerSlam 91.
All right. So Warrior version 1.
This is right before he left or was fired.
Yeah, they ever figure what happened with that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of conflicting stories on here. So this is, I'm going to give you the story what I was told exactly. So apparently Vince McMahon and Ultimate Warrior had made a deal. Ultimate Warrior wanted a $500,000 payoff from WrestleMania 7. Vince agreed. Warrior wanted to be the highest paid wrestler in the WWF. Vince agreed. Warrior wanted 5% of the live gates. Vince agreed. So at SummerSlam 91, Vince reneged on the deal. It's like, we're not going to give you that. So Warrior's like, I want my money, I want my stuff, I want my deal, or I'm not going to go out and perform tonight. Vince agreed, gave him his check for like, I guess, $500,000. They had the match, and Warrior came back, he fucking fired him. So, that's the story. Now, the Vince McMahon version is that Warrior held him up for money. So Jake has the Ultimate Warrior in the casket, and he shut it. This is from a prior episode where The Undertaker had locked the Ultimate Warrior in a casket, and the Warrior almost died.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Good old Jake.
But this is where I have problems with segments like these. Again, you see how they're produced. They're produced like a TV show or B movie or what have you, right? It kind of takes me out of the element of wrestling. You have the arena, you have your live show, you have your studio produced show.
Right.
When it looks like this, when it looks this produced, I don't buy it. I don't fucking buy it. Now, if this was on the set of the Brother Love show, then maybe I would buy it a little bit more.
Well, there's the Ultimate Warrior stickers on there, too.
That's great.
Oh, no.
So you have a Warrior coming up from the casket. Right at the camera. He's becoming dark and scary, I believe. And it really broke up the show poorly. I mean, I watched this live when it happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, now we're going to go up to Dwayne Gill versus the Mountie after this. What fuck?
Hello, Alfred Hayes. I still suck.
Like, where the fuck is Mean Gene on this?
Mean Gene was.
This looks like a Mean Gene story.
Mean Gene was, sloshed out of the pit.
All right, so next up we have Jake the Snake Roberts at a cemetery. With a lot of fog. You get the fog machines out at this point. Again, it looks really hokey, really fake, man. So Jake is he looks like he's the type of person that tucks his pants inside his cowboy boots.
He sure is.
Digs that shit.
Cavaricci's there, isn't it?
It looks that way, yeah.
Jake could easily fit into any late 80s like Southern action movie.
Yeah, for real.
Where he's like, Jake Roberts in Bayou of Blood.
And he has the good mullet going on. He's wearing a Snake t-shirt. Doesn't look like one of the shirts that they had for sale, the WWE, so it might be his own. With a giant cobra, it looks like, on it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a snakeskin belt he's wearing.
Oh, pleats, let me tell you.
Pleats. Were you a big fan of the one earring deal back in the day?
Left is right, right is wrong.
Now that's your opinion.
Actually, to this day, when I have to grab something, if I have two of the same things in my hand, I always put the one I need on my left hand. Go left is right, right is wrong.
Now we have the Ultimate Warrior. It seems to be in non-wrestling attire.
Oh,
he's digging a hole. I guess they're going to dig something up here.
He's a wrestling attire. He's got his little entrance jacket on.
Is he? Okay. Now, how did they light the grave red on this? It's completely ridiculous.
Well, the swamp gas. That's what it is.
Okay, I cannot buy that.
Oh, he's killing Jake Roberts with a shovel. Oh, okay, he's not. All right.
Not yet. Ultimate Warrior finds a skull.
Oh, York. Alas, poor York.
Yes.
I will say this. Credit Jake Roberts for when I went to Georgia and decided to buy snakeskin boots.
Nice.
And I still have them.
Nice.
Yes.
Met Jake the Snake at a convention. He convinced me to buy one of his T-shirts. I didn't want to buy them, but then he made me feel bad, and so I bought them.
And was it a good shirt?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it says something to the fact that don't judge me about my past, judge me about my future. So Warrior cuts a promo saying how he trusts Jake the Snake Roberts, and then he screams out, "Bury me, Snake Man!" So Jake is now burying the Ultimate Warrior in a grave.
How much cocaine do you think fueled this segment?
Quite a bit. Now we have a shot at the skull. Again, nice camera work there, Kevin Dunn. So the Warrior is buried up to his head. They didn't bury him completely.
Did you know, though, that skull, Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend that he killed?
Ooh!
Oh.
Ooh.
He can't stand trial. It's okay.
I thought you were going to say it was one of Hillary Clinton's bodyguards.
Oh, what the? My God. Oh.
This reminds me of a segment they did in Florida with superstar Billy Graham when he's in the desert tied.
Yes.
And they had the Scorpions on him.
The band, the musicians?
No, not the band Scorpions, actual real Scorpions.
Oh, okay.
See, look, Warrior's wearing white jeans in this one.
But
I saw a picture of the Ultimate Warrior on Regis and Kathy Lee, and he's wearing overalls but no shirt on.
of course he is.
Oh, those are shorts, actually. Look at that.
Are they jorts?
No. But it looks like he's wearing wrestling boots, though.
Yeah. This is always... I think the same guys that produce porn produce wrestling stuff.
You think so? It could be.
Oh.
Bubba Ray Dudley once directed a porno.
Who did?
Bubba Ray Dudley.
Oh, really? Oh, good for him.
So it looks like the Ultimate Warrior is going to some sort of dungeon of some sort.
Is it a Dungeon of Doom?
I can only wish it was.
How cool would that have been? They travel through time.
If I had the right raw footage, I could edit them together. So it looks like the Ultimate Warrior is in a room full of snakes.
Oh.
So it looks like there's a box in the middle of the room.
Well, that's not very good care and handling of snake. Oh, man. What did that snake do to you? Oh. Call the ASPCA on this guy.
Yeah. I don't like my Ultimate Warrior blonde. I come to that conclusion.
Well, he's got like a... What's her name?
He looks like a bad 80s metal fucking singer.
He has Lou Ferrigno hair. Dun, 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 dun.
Alright, so he's going to open the box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box, man? What's in the box?
One snake was eating the other snake. Man, that sucks, that guy. Just the corpse of Damien. A bunch of burger patties.
They should have had Ultimate Warrior's head in there.
Now, this never played out to be Jake versus Ultimate Warrior, right?
No. Jake wouldn't even feud with Warrior. He went on to feud with Sid Justice.
Oh.
So Ultimate Warrior's bitten by the snake.
Oh.
Clearly, the snake has not been devenomized.
All right, spinning room. Don't help him, camera crew. Should we help this guy? Nah, he's fine.
It reminds me of an episode of The Kardashians.
Yes. Oh,
bad acting by the Ultimate Warrior.
yes. I found a Black Widow spider in my grapes.
Now, you can tell that Jake's loving this. He's completely in his element on this.
Yeah, Jake's just like, whatever, I'll do this.
Like,
Give me a
this is
script.
awesome. So Ultimate Warrior is clearly sick and poisoned at this point.
He had it coming.
Jake breaks the fourth wall, which is something they don't do today. They don't look at the camera. Ultimate Warrior busts through the door like a motherfucker.
This is when Jake hosted Tales from the Crypt, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if he can slither his way out of this one. Oh.
And then the big reveal that Jake the Snake and Undertaker were in cahoots all along.
No. No. Dun, dun.
And I gotta say something for the Undertaker. At this point of his career, he looks completely menacing. Sans the red hair though, but otherwise looks completely terrifying. Jake proclaims that you never trust a snake, which is true, by the way. I'm just wondering, they just Cosby the Ultimate Warrior, so I'm wondering what they're going to do with him next.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, Ultimate Warrior and Jake the Snake Roberts. What are your overall thoughts on that one?
That would have been a money feud, baby. But they blew it.
Yeah, so Warrior would go on to feud with Undertaker a little bit more, and then he would go with that SummerSlam match, which was him and the Hulkster versus the Triangle of Terror, which was Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and the Iron Sheik, Colonel Mustafa at the time. At that point, it looked like they were setting up for a further feud going forward, but Ultimate Warrior was promptly fired after SummerSlam 91. So they transferred that feud into a Savage Jake Roberts feud going forward. That's when Savage got bit by the snake.
Was that legit?
Yeah. I mean, the snake was identified, but he really fucking bit him, though.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't fucking around with that shit. So next up, we have another Ultimate Warrior feud with Papa Shango. Papa Shango being the Godfather, Kama Mustafa, what have you. So the Ultimate Warrior is feuding with a Voodoo Man. So obviously, you see at this point in Warrior's career, they're giving him whatever creature feature fucking guy, any kind of dark character for him to feud with. Because at this point, after losing the belt, what do you have him do? Right. It's like what they did the Undertaker. So the Undertaker would feud with all these fucking weirdos, monsters, your Bundys, your Giant Gonzaleses, Kamalas.
Yeah,
these fucking guys. Looks like they're giving the Warrior the same kind of treatment here. Fortunately, the Warrior is not the worker that the Undertaker is. So, what are your thoughts on? You're taking a look at Papa Shango here. What are your thoughts on the Shango Man?
Wow, Papa Shango. One of my favorite little things, as a little aside here, is that there was recently an independent show, and it was like featuring Papa Shango and the Godfather.
Did Charles Wright work twice that night, or what?
He must have. Yeah, he must have, man. I was
now,
like, wow.
This is post. This is when he's made his return, and everyone thought he was dead. And he probably was because of this angle. Yeah. So now we see here the Ultimate Warrior. Looks like he has a curse put on him. He falls off the apron.
Oh no, what a maneuver.
He got cramps or something. He was on the fucking rag.
Yeah.
So we see the Warrior interviewing with Mean Gene. And then you have black ooze pouring from his face on his sweet Ultimate Warrior jacket, which I desperately wanted as a child. So what are your feelings on wrestlers with superpowers?
I think it, when done right, can be fine. Because, wrestling is, that blurring that line of superheroes. Like I always say, wrestlers are kind of real-life superheroes in a sense, like, capes and colorful costumes, battling bad guys, right? But I think if it's done right, it's fine. But I do believe they go over the line sometimes. But
do you think people who practice voodoo were offended by the Papa Shango character?
Oh, I hope so.
I think it was offensive and all.
I think it was just
offensive all around.
I think the guy from the 7-Up commercials was offended. Ah, the Uncola. Because he's basically the bad guy from Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Papa Shango. But it's not to say, like you can't have, an American Indian wrestler anymore. Or
when they're touching religion, you think that's like, is it the equivalent of having a Jewish wrestler come out with a yarmulke?
If he wants to wear one, that's his call. I don't know. I think.
And then he hit someone in the head with the menorah.
I think that would be hysterical. But I always go back to Piper's Pit when he hit Jimmy Snuka with the coconut.
Right.
If you had someone come out and let's say, I don't know, Zack Ryder was Jewish. Maybe he is. I don't know. And someone says, Zach, I know what today is. It's the first day of Hanukkah. And in honor of that, I'm going to give you 8 days worth of beatings. And they came out, they smashed him in the head with a menorah and just really left him lying. You'd be like, oh my God. But I'll bet you any money it would get social media coverage. And people would rally for the, Zack Ryder, the Jewish hammer, whatever, Hebrew Hammer.
Yeah.
That movie, I don't know if you saw the movie called The Hebrew Hammer, but
it's fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, Hebrew Hammer. My point being, though, I think in the right context and used properly, it can get over an angle.
Yeah.
Right now, I gotta say, with the culture of this country, I'm surprised McMahon hasn't brought out a policeman brutality, like Big Bossman type tag
I
team.
mean, that's what he was. I mean, we watched
Right.
Bossman early on.
Right.
He
Or
would handcuff, Dusty and beat the shit out of him.
yeah, or a skinhead type tag team. Like well, let's say Jack Swagger kind of goes back to the way he was, but I don't have a problem using inflammatory angles because it's part of what you're doing. You're trying to inflame the audience to want to watch. That's part of your reason for being there.
That's why we had Nazis and Russians and those type of wrestlers because they would get heat.
Right. So if Papa Shango was the guy making the Ultimate Warrior, fall over and vomit on camera, using his voodoo to do it. Like, again, I'm not religious. There are people that believe in voodoo and people, whatever. It's your call, man. But it's not my bag. But I think for the purposes of entertainment, do it. I mean, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like the Da Vinci Code. You have all these movies. Watch Supernatural. It's loaded with references.
Why is wrestling held to a different standard than television shows or movies that you may have a terrorist or a stereotypical whatever the fuck? Why is wrestling held to a different standard?
I think because they have an audience of younger kids love wrestling, and they think like, oh, well, the kids are impressionable, which is true, but people have kids that watch 24 or they watch whatever show it might
The
be.
Zombie, Walking Dead,
right?
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, granted, Game of Thrones is more on a kid show, but I think if I was looking at, I'm trying to think of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Star Wars Republic, right? And they had, I'm trying to think of, maybe Turtles works better. And they had some guy who was like the Iron Sheik type character, over the top Middle Eastern terrorist. I actually think it plays better to have characters that are over the top in this kind of thing because it's silly. It's supposed to be.
Because then you can tell that they're completely ridiculous.
Like you look at Rusev in wrestling right now, I like him better as just Rusev the bad guy, the Bulgarian. Because when they had him being the Russian guy that was, the great Putin, you could tell he didn't really care for it.
Oh. Now, if he was legitimately Russian and that, he would have some kind of nationalistic pride, we would understand. But number one, you can't pull that shit today because it's like when Kofi Kingston tried to be like Jamaican.
Right.
And like, we know he's not Jamaican, so.
Right. And the thing with him, with Rusev, you spend so much time building him as a Bulgarian brute. It was sort of like, well, he's close enough. Like that's even worse. Like, well, you're from Europe. You're kind of Irish. Be the Irish guy. We already have an Irish guy.
I'm surprised they haven't done like the African dictator. You know what I mean? Like remember that Somalian pirates and shit like that.
Oh, I once made up a Somalian tag team. And it was like the names were oh god, they were Somali pirates, but it was like John Mustafa or something like that. But it just, again, the names you use, they are part of the process. And I do think the reason that wrestling's held to a different standard is because of the viewership and that they consider it a kid's thing.
Right.
But I really think that's the problem that they would escape from if when they were going towards the adult audience with the Attitude Era, people didn't have as much of a problem because you were aiming towards college kids and up. Right. And I think the area they have a problem with it now is that you have so much television.
Too much television.
Well, I shouldn't say. I've always said I think their problem isn't too much. It's just they don't put the work into it. They write it too much. They have
like it must be impossible to try to write that show fucking weekly. You're talking about 2-3 hours Raw. You're talking about another 2 hours on SmackDown. NXT, Superstars, Main Event.
I think their biggest problem is they don't have a coherent storyline overall arc. For example, I've always said it's a company with belts. The belts are the things you want to win. Right. That should be the determining driving factor for every wrestler that walks in the door, unless they're there for a different reason. So they walk in, they're there. Steve the Hitman Chambers, I came here to kick someone's ass. I don't give a shit about belts. I don't care about tournaments. Like, he'd go in tournaments and say, and that's the thing where, if a wrestler has an overall arc, and every show's driven by the championships, So, what they do a lot of too is whoever wins the match in the first hour faces the champion.
Yeah, it's bad.
Well, you wouldn't do that on UFC. I'm not saying you have to adopt UFC rules, but build up to it,
Unless you're going to have a scenario like when Nails came in and he had a personal mandate against the boss man.
Right, and that... God, Nails.
Choked out Vince McMahon, by the way. Got fired.
That's true.
Yeah. And then he tried to tell him that he tried to grab his junk.
Well, who wouldn't?
Again, he was a big... during the steroid trial, he was one of the star witnesses for the prosecution, and he's probably the reason why they lost the case.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, I think when you go to like certain angles, like Papa Shango, that nowadays they could have it be someone who's I don't know, born again, or Westboro Baptist Church, or I'm trying to think of some religious.
I mean, definitely, Westboro could definitely be, they could definitely do a parody of that.
Oh yeah, and I think
that's ripe for parody, to be honest.
If you had an audience, or you were aiming at an audience that was more diverse, like I think right now the problem is that you're trying to be too many things to too many people.
Are they too Americanized? You think they should be more of an international company? I mean, they claim to be an international company, but a lot of their stuff is very red state, very pro-America, very. And if you're a fan watching in India, are you really gonna give a shit?
Oh, I would definitely say they need to like work on just being more about the product and less about like, because granted, USA, but
I mean, if you want to be a national company, if you want to be a United States company, you're not going to tour these places anyway, then who gives a shit? But if you're trying to be global, if you're trying to get live events in India, which they've been to in the past, if they're going to the Middle East, which they've been to in the past, if they want to start promoting wrestling in China, you can't be that like over the top, pro-America, because it's not going to work over there. You're going to try to run a show being pro-America, and the people there are not Americans, and they're from China, and they're not going to like, oh, why am I going to this shit? To them, it seems like propaganda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
Well, if you look at it, it's like I was watching the thing the other day, and it was saying how they compared like other countries' movies to our country's movies as far as the propaganda.
Yeah.
And they had like American Sniper, and they had the spoof, but of sorts, but it was the poster from Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
About the German sniper, and it was that same idea that like we glorify the American guy. Like I used to always say, like if I went to Iraq, would I see like Ali Akbar Rambo, like the Rambo story told from their perspective,
There's in India there's quite a bit. Like there's India's all on its own, so it's like you have India Star Wars, India Superman, so it's like it's very different.
Right.
Turkey's they have like a lot of movies like that in Turkey too. Like they have studios over there who make they literally take parts of other movies and make a new movie around it. So they actually take scenes from Star Wars, like some of the exterior shots, the ships and that kind of stuff, and then do their own movie with it, which is really ridiculous, but in an awesome way. But yeah, I think overall, if they're trying to be global, they have a lot of work to do in terms of where Vince's agenda tends to be, and that he's very patriotic, and so am I. But when you have like back in the day, I've seen this literally happen. When you have Hacksaw Jim Duggan saying USA, USA, and you're in fucking Canada, that means you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, it's just catchphrase, blah 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 blah. Your foreign heels. You need to have baby faces that are foreigners too. Unless you're from Canada, and sometimes Mexico, and that one time that guy from France named Andre the Giant.
Right.
From anywhere else, you're a heel. So maybe if they had, what if they had a Middle Eastern baby face? What if they had a Russian baby face, not Nikolai Volkov?
Yes.
Fastest pro.
And I think, look what happened with Nikita Koloff.
Dude, that was such a big deal, and dude, Russia was still communist at that point, and that was awesome. He fucking got a huge reaction.
If I can change, you can change. Rocky
IV is my favorite movie of all time, by the way. So I predicated my entire life on that movie. So it goes back to my point about how Sylvester Stallone is the greatest wrestling writer of all time, but we'll get into that in another episode. All right, so it looks like we are officially out of time. So, guys, please let me know if you like this format that we can we'll watch different clips and give you your opinion on it. If you don't, we'll do what we normally do. But this is definitely an experiment to try something new for you guys. Hopefully, you're entertained by it. Again, keep on watching the NWA 1983 project. Lots of cool matches coming up. Like, again, we have the Puerto Rico show. We also have the Texas Stadium show. So those are the next two big shows that are upcoming. The main event from our Puerto Rico show will be Randy Savage versus Rowdy Piper. Again, a big-time match, a match that we never really got to see. So really excited to see that. And in the Texas Stadium, we have Ric Flair versus Harley Race for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship inside of a steel cage. So stay tuned for that.